All right, so now we're going to get into the technical part of running an ad campaign, and that's the actual video itself. Inside of the Disney Ads platform, they are very specific on exactly what they want in order to approve an ad. So you got to make sure you've got the right video specs, the right length, and everything else that they require. So watch this one very carefully. The good news is, once you get into your video editor, you set up some of the information that you need, you're going to be able to use that every time without having to do it each and every time you create a new ad. So be sure to watch this one very carefully and bookmark it. Go back and watch it as many times as you need to make sure that you get the specs correctly. If you have any questions, of course, reach out. I'll be glad to help out with that. All right, on to lesson number 4, streaming ads, TV advertising fixed. Up to this point, we've established 2 critical ideas. First, TV advertising has always worked because it aligns with human psychology. Second, traditional TV advertising broke because the system around it started to fall apart. This lesson is where those 2 ideas come back together. Streaming advertising exists because it fixes the broken parts of traditional TV without losing what made TV powerful in the first place. So, the most important thing that you need to understand is this. Streaming ads are not digital ads in the way that social media or display ads are. They are television commercials, just like they've always been, just in a new place. They play on TV screens, they interrupt content the same way that traditional commercials do, and they deliver full audio and visual impact. The difference is not the ad, it's simply how the ad has been delivered to the viewer. Streaming preserves everything that made TV advertising so effective for the last couple of decades. The screen is still very large, in fact, larger than ever. The viewer is still in a lean back environment. Again, that means that they're kind of sitting on a couch, leaning back, as opposed to, using a computer where they're leaning forward and using a keyboard. They're sitting back, they're kind of just taking in what's there and kind of just shutting off mentally while that message goes right through into their head. And the ads, they still use sound, motion, and emotion to tell the story that's going to help get your message across. Nothing about the psychological power of TV advertising has been lost in streaming. It's just a different way to get it to that big screen. Even though the delivery system has changed, the viewing environment has not changed at all. People are still watching streaming content in the same physical settings where they were watching their cable or their broadcast TV. They're on their couch, they're in their living room, often with other members of their family at the same time. This environment still commands attention in a way that phones and computers rarely ever will. Now, one of the biggest improvements streaming brings to this is targeting. Instead of buying entire regions or hoping that the right people are watching TV at a specific time on a specific show, streaming ads are delivered to specific households or really to specific people and audiences. This dramatically reduces waste and makes TV advertising usable for smaller and local businesses. As I've mentioned earlier, in my area, we are really broken up. You got to deal with different cable companies. You've got to deal with different regions that the cable companies cover. So because we're split by 2 different counties, we got to deal with a representative from one county, a representative from the other county, buy from both of them just to be able to get the whole city. So it is a mess. And this streaming ads can absolutely change that for the better. You're not going to be wasting all that money anymore. Streaming ads also fix the cost problem. Advertisers are no longer required to commit to massive upfront spends. Campaigns can start smaller, scale gradually, and be adjusted over time. And as we're going to see as we go into this, we're talking about ad campaigns that can start for as little as $500. Now that's your cost. You're going to obviously be charging clients a little bit more than that to be able to run the ads for them, but you can start for as little as $500, which is just unheard of in any other type of TV medium, okay? The flexibility of this removes so much of the financial risk that has always kept a lot of smaller businesses away from doing traditional TV. I mean, if you think about it, if you've got to commit to thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars every single month just to run a TV ad that half the time ends up at 2 p.m. and people skip it with a DVR, that makes it really tough to justify the spending. But when you spend it on these streaming ads where they can't skip them, the people have to watch them, and they're only charged when somebody does watch them, and you can target, that's a big, big difference that's going to get a lot more people involved that otherwise would not have been able to do so. Measurement is also another major improvement. Streaming platforms report actual impressions that are delivered, how often the ads were shown, and whether the ads were completed. In fact, it's not going to show at all unless it is completed. If you've got a 30-second ad, somebody watches 28 seconds of it and they turn their TV off, that does not count towards your budget. That is a non-view of an ad. So you only get charged an ad when you are doing a full 30-second ad or a 15-second ad. This transparency allows advertisers, especially local advertisers, to evaluate performance with confidence instead of relying on estimates. Advertisers can now see what they're getting, adjust their campaigns when they need to, and make informed decisions. This is something you could not do with cable. If you pay to have your commercial on cable, good luck making any changes. With these streaming ads, you can change it tonight and have it tomorrow morning be a totally different ad, or run to a slightly different audience or a different location. It's that simple to make those changes, which you could never do with traditional TV. TV advertising is no longer just a black box. This changes how businesses, especially smaller local businesses, think about and trust doing TV ads. And of course, streaming is not a trend. For the first time, local businesses can realistically access TV advertising. If you want to advertise to a specific city or a zip code, you can do that. You want the whole state, you want the whole country, you can do that as well. You also get to control your budgets. You decide how much you want to spend. Okay? This is great for businesses that, maybe they want to hit a small area and they don't have a huge budget. You can still get very effective advertising for a very low price if you're doing that. So now these businesses can control their budgets and still appear in premium environments that they previously thought were completely out of reach to them. Streaming removes the structural barriers that excluded them before. Now, streaming advertising isn't a fad and it's not a temporary shift. In fact, if anything, it's not a fad yet because most local business owners have no idea they can even do this, let alone how to do this. These streaming ad platforms are a modern delivery system for an advertising model that has worked for decades. The principles did not change, only the infrastructure did. And for marketers, understanding streaming advertising is absolutely essential. It allows you to combine the emotional power of TV with the precision and accountability of digital advertising without ever sacrificing either of those powerful things. Streaming ads represent the natural evolution of television advertising. These preserve what worked before, remove what didn't work or had stopped working, and expands access to a much wider range of advertisers, even very small businesses in local markets. So the key takeaway to all this, streaming ads keep the power of TV, but they fix everything that wasn't working properly so that everybody can access the power of TV advertising. At this point, you need to understand why TV advertising has always been effective, why the old system failed people, and why streaming succeeds where traditional advertising struggled. The foundation is critical as we move into the platforms and execution of running ads on these streaming platforms. So now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of exactly how to set up these campaigns and how to sell them to the local businesses.